Welcome to Holocron Card Hub, where we mostly look at Star Wars Unlimited cards. And today, I'm not alone here because I have invited a guest who knows how to play the cards we are looking at. It's Sector Qualifier Berlin winner Christian, who's giving us a tour of our winning deck. Welcome, Christian. How does it feel to win a Sector Qualifier?
Hello, thank you for having me. It's hard to describe. It's a very good feeling. And yeah, it took some time for me to realize. Now it's arrived in my head and it feels really good.
I can only imagine. Let's talk about your history first. You qualified for the Galactic Open main event last year because you won, I think, the Rostock PQ?
No,
that was your team colleague. Which PQ did you win?
None PQ.
You collected
points via top 8.
Okay, you choose to play your sector winning deck, Mando Colossus, at the Galactics as well. What was the reasoning to try out that deck? Was it the looming threat of Cad Bane?
Absolutely, yeah. The same reason why I chose to play it this time. I didn't want to play Cad Bane as everyone else because I was sure to play so many mirror matches and you have to be very lucky, I think, and you have to be a good player, of course, as well. And so I tried to choose a deck positive against Cad Bane, and I think I found it.
Probably as positive as a deck can get against right now. Yeah, for now you are very qualified for next year's main event. 500 points, top 88 right now. How did your Star Wars Unlimited career go since rotation? We see results that are not as amazing as the Sector one. Did you strike the deck you felt comfortable? Up here it says Mandalorian is your signature deck, but I know last season you were a very heavy Han Solo player, which felt more like this is the deck that you really, really, really like to play.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always been more of an aggro player. I started with Sabine and had very good results with her. I won a PQ with Sabine and I switched to Han later. I played some soft control in between, but I always said I don't want to play hard control in a big tournament. So I ended up playing Mando Colossus.
Oops. Okay, big tournament, 500, more than 500 players, and you only lost twice. Once against Director Krennic. Did Director Krennic outramp you, or what was the problem in that game?
He outraced me. In the first game, I remember he had craving power on his leader and he applied so much pressure I didn't expect it, and he ran me over before I could start wiping the board. And in the second game I managed to wipe the board with a Nebula Ignition, and my opponent had one of the Mando tokens which is shielded, so upgraded, which stayed on the board, and he looked at his hand cards and started to count and said, I claim. Then in his turn, he played aggressive negotiations and attacked my base for exactly 12, which was lethal. So it was 0-2.
Okay. Yeah, you faced 8 Cad Banes in your 15 rounds. Won 7 of them, lost 1 of them. I think the loss against Tim was on stream as the win.
Yes.
What happened that you could turn it around? Did you learn how Tim plays his Cad Bane so you could better play against it? Or one was more lucky with the draws, one was more unlucky? How did you manage to beat Tim after he beat you in Swiss?
I think we both had a pretty good draw in both games or both matches. And in the Swiss, in the last but one round, he had a much better draw. still than me, and he always had the great curve, especially with the Octobocto into Cosca Reefs, which is very hard to beat because it's flooding the board with units, and if you don't have the laser turret, for example, he always triggers the Cosca and manages to go wide, which is really hard to beat for Mando Colossus.
Completely nuts. Cat Bane, Cat Bane, Cat Bane, Cat Bane, Cat Bane. There's one Ahsoka Tano here in round 8 by Cybermuffin. I heard that Ahsoka Tano is kind of the arch nemesis of Mando because it's way too quick. How did you beat this Ahsoka, and are you glad that you dodged many Ahsokas in this tournament and only faced the deck you are mostly prepared for?
Absolutely, yeah, sure. Yeah, as you said, Ahsoka Tano, especially the blue version, is absolutely super hard to beat because it does exactly what I just said. It's going wide. Also uses Cosca Reefs. The blue version also goes on with Queen Amidala, which is 3 units. And then in the deploy turn, you're often already dead. Fortunately, I played only against Ahsoka Yellow, which is a different build, very space-focused, with Admiral Akbar and lots of one-drop ships. And I managed to live until I found hyperspace disasters, and it was not that explosive. So I was lucky and I did it.
Absolutely, congratulations. About 7 wins were expected for you. You made 6 more than expected, so I think you can be extremely proud of you. The next step is, because that's why most people probably tuned in, that we take a look at your deck and you walk us through it. But before we do that, it's August the 19th as we record this. We still have 2 days left for the TCG Awards. While I am nominated as Content Creator of the Year, so please go to tcgawards.com/vote, and at the Content Creator of the Year, Holocron Card Hub, and as the Event of the Year, please vote the 4th Josephine Poke Cup for Pokemon Lorcana and Star Wars Unlimited in Dresden, Germany. That would be absolutely amazing. So let's jump right into your deck. Not many ground units, not many space units, but we start with the Mandalorian leader. It is a aggression heroism leader with the ability, when you take the initiative, pay 1. If you do, draw a card. He flips at 6 and is a 4/6. Which is the more important side of this leader? His leader side or his unit side?
Absolutely his leader side, because it's most of the game he's on his leader side. He usually dies pretty fast, and that's okay, because even if he dies, he can also use his ability in the same turn. Some people didn't know that. He does not have to be exhausted for the card. You can even do it if he just died.
Nice. You started to play him in the top cut, the showcase? Okay, and it brought you luck.
It did.
Where do you deploy this leader on 6 resources, or is it a leader that you want to deploy when it fits your game plan?
I always deployed him on 6 resources, and of course, you want to have a unit on the board when you deploy, because he has a support ability, which makes you even draw 1 more card for attacking with the unit he's supporting. But even if you don't have a unit on the board, most of the time he often serves as an extra removal when he attacks into your opponent's unit, and he also draws you a card then.
Okay, the card draw is probably what made you play Colossus. It's a 35 HP as well, but the deficit of this base of drawing 1 less card starting hand is made up in like round 2.
In round 1. because you
Even
always
Rockman.
take the initiative. Absolutely very niche cases where you would play any card in turn 1, but they are hardly there.
Yes. Normally, it's said like need to have at least 12 1-drops or first round drops. And if we look at the ones you have here, that's at least in the ground.
That's
only
a 1-drop
8.
in my deck, unfortunately, because it costs 3, because it's out of aspect.
Why did you choose these out of aspect card?
Because there's a great combo with a new card from Ashes of the Empire that's called Reckless Sacrifice. And maybe you bring it up.
Of course, that's this one.
Yes. Reckless Sacrifice has discard a unit card from your hand if it costs, or you can deal 5 damage to a unit if the discarded card costs less than the unit you want to deal the damage. So you could play it on the first turn, although you probably won't because you want to draw a card. The great advantage you get in addition is that you enable Anakin right away and make him trigger twice when you play him, because you have a heroic and a villainy card in your discard from then on, which is very strong.
It's interesting. This is not a staple in this deck. It's less than 70% of people who play Mando Colossus play this card. This will probably change this weekend after everyone learned how well that worked.
And one more thing about him, who even want to play him, because if your opponent plays a board wipe, I think Tim did in the finals game, you can also restore, which is very important for the deck. Sometimes it happens during the end of the game when it's close that you have just very little life left on your base. And if your opponent has direct damage, you need restore, get to your finish. Here, very, very good restore on this unit. One more thing is the Ninth Sister, which makes you discard cards and deal damage equal to the cost of the discarded card. Of course, it's good to units or cards, very little. Ninth Sister, you just 1 damage.
Yes, seems like a smart choice. Then we have one of the leaders of the rebellion, the 2-cost aggression, heroism, charismatic. Freedom is a pure idea. 3 attack, 2 HP hidden, and when defeated, you may disclose aggression and heroism if you do create a spy token and ready it. Probably in the deck because it's one of the best 2-drops in the game for aggression, heroism.
It is, absolutely. It's another cheap unit to discard for Reckless Sacrifice if you need it. It's a heroic card. There are not too many heroic cards in the deck. It's not rare that you are on 6 resources and you could play Anakin, but you don't have a heroic or villainous card in your discard. So you have to keep up the count of cards that are heroic. There is some nice tricks you can play with Charismatic. Did it once on stream, I think. You can play it out, and if your opponent, for example, claims the initiative, you can use another card to defeat your own Charismatic, and you get a ready spy, which can immediately attack, which can end the game sooner than your opponent expects.
Yes, and even it even helps you to control the board a little bit better, I think, because you can just sacrifice the Charis into a unit of your opponent, and you get 2 more attacks for free, 2 points of attacks for free when you can disclose.
Of course,
I think you did the same.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's it for Charis. One of my favorite cards in the deck. Okay, the Outer Rim Constable. 2 aggression, 3/1. When played, you may defeat an upgrade. Do you have a specific upgrade in mind, or is this just an all-rounder because the meta is still rather space heavy?
Yes, that's one of the reasons. The pilots, of course. Chewbacca has always been hard to beat for control decks, so it's important to have more arts against it. I have the 3 remembers, but it's good to have more to the combo. And there are many more upgrades which can be difficult to beat. For example, the Shadow of Stygian Prime, which makes you lose life consistently, or cards like Condemn. If your leader gets condemned, that hurts because you can still attack and make your own leader die to him back as a leader, but you don't draw the cards when it's condemned.
Yeah, 2 of them in the deck. Yeah, I think probably the right. A card more often in your deck probably needs to be attacked as often as it is in the deck is the Droid Laser Turret, the 2/1 shielded sentinel, which throws breaks into a lot of other players' gameplay because they have to attack in it. And that's probably why it's in there.
Absolutely. Yes, because we are playing a control deck. You want to stall the game as much as you can and make it long because you're favored in the long game against every deck. And I would even play 6 of them if I could. And actually, in this deck, at this time in this meta, it's even better than Village Protectors. Also, it has 1 less life because Cat Bane cannot ping the shield because it only has 1 life, which is very important. As I said before, it's important to beat Cat Bane and not trigger his Cosca Reefs, to not destroy a unit on the 4 resource turn, because that would trigger the Cosca Reefs and make a Mandalorian token. Very good play to play Droid Laser Turret on 4 resources and have 1 resource up to draw a card. So you don't kill an enemy unit and you still take no damage.
Do you play a unit in the first turn, or do you claim immediately and your game starts with 3 resource like the Droid Laser Turret?
Yeah, absolutely. As I said, you always want to claim on the first turn and draw a card and make up for the disadvantage you have from Colossus. So you choose to always claim turn 1 and get 5 life, so to say, because Colossus is 35 HP base.
Makes sense. I think the next card is probably the card you want to play then as your first unit in the game. The Hera Syndulla Vigilance Aggression Heroism card, 3/4. When attack ends, if this unit dealt combat damage to a base, heal that much damage from your base. So a unit that your opponent needs to take care of, otherwise you can just heal.
Yeah, absolutely. Hera depends actually on the matchup, if you want to play her early or if you want to play her at all. It's especially strong against the pilot decks or the space decks because they have a harder time to interact with her. Actually, in the tournament on Sunday, I only remember attacking with her and aggressive negotiations once, but that felt really good because she gets so much more attack and you get an equal amount of restore on your base, which makes the game longer. As I said, it's very important and lots of decks cannot recover from that.
Do you still remember how big the attack was?
No.
Okay.
Big.
That's the most important part. Yeah.
And it's also a nice combo with Bo-Katan because she gives experience tokens. You can even grow the Hera Syndulla and restore even more.
Yeah, let's take a quick look at Bo-Katan. 9 cost, vigilance, heroism, 8/8. That's 9 resources probably when your game really starts to begin.
Yeah,
you want to survive until then?
It's getting fun.
Okay. As much as this kind of deck can be fun. But that's just my personal opinion. Bo-Katan increase alone, when played, give each unit -3/-3 for this phase, and when an enemy unit is defeated, give an experience token to a friendly unit. The Mando tokens of Cosca Reeves and a lot more other units of Cat Bane are just thankful targets for this.
Absolutely. And not only Cosca Reeves, but also Previsla, of course,
Mm-hmm.
which is everywhere right now. So this is a great answer. You play so many cards in this deck that are removal and also apply pressure and are able to finish the game. Just like Bo-Katan, we come to the others.
Yes. Right, we haven't even talked about it's like 61 cards in your deck, not 50. Don't you get much consistency, or are there just so many events that you need to play, stay alive until Bo-Katan or Rey can come out?
Of course, you care for consistency. You draw so many cards that it happens if the game goes very long, which you want, that your deck is empty before your opponent's and you start taking damage. So you can afford or you also even want to play more than 50 cards. And that's what I chose to play 61.
Makes sense. A one-off card, you have Honor, Oink Squee, 4 cost, rate to restore to 3/5. Nuts card, honestly. I'm surprised that it's only in there once because it always feels like a threat when it's out there. You have 2 more in the sideboard, if I remember correctly.
I have 1 more in the sideboard.
Okay.
Actually, I didn't play her until Friday night. I decided more restore in my deck, and I looked at the deck list of a friend, and he showed me he played the Honor, and so I decided I will add to my list as well.
Smart. Okay. Then the next one is a 5-cost Zeb Aurelius, this time with double L, Spectre 4, Sentinel, and he does damage. You probably can't trigger the command and cunning.
You might.
Maybe with Rey?
Yeah, exactly. You have Rey. I never did deal 5 damage, but even if it's only dealing 3 damage, very strong card. As I said, your threat, units you play, also removal most of the time, just like Zeb is. And you can trade the cards 2 for 1 by his fantastic ability. And Sentinel is, of course, always very good in the control deck. So we play 3.
Yes. Also 3 from Anakin, the Vigilance unit, which is when played, if you have a heroism card in your discard, you give a unit -3/-3, and when played, there's a villainy card in your discard, you give a unit -3/-3, which can be the same unit, for example, a Pre-Whistler. Is it worth it to play this card if you only have a heroism or a villainy card in your discard, or play this card when there are both in your discard?
It depends. If you are under heavy pressure, of course you play it for -3/-3 if you can kill something. But in the late game, he usually always gives -6, which is obviously super strong for 6 resources. Remove a unit, most units for sure, and have a 5/7 body. And we mentioned him before when we talked about the Reckless Sacrifice combo, which can enable him when you have the 6 resources.
Yeah, even in the 3 resource turn. Strong card will probably get even stronger with the newly revealed cards we've seen today. Invest now if you don't have 3 of them.
And it's very strong against shielded units, of course, which we have plenty of right now, like the Mandalorian tokens or the Imperial Armored Commando.
Which are the 4/3 shielded. Yes. And the Beast tokens in the next set.
In the future.
Yes. Anything more for Anakin?
I can't think of anything right now.
Yeah, I think that's the most important part is that you are very quickly able to trigger both of these. That was harder back in other times where you had to discard a power of the dark side from your heroism deck also. Good times. A card which is which is more expensive than Anakin is a Previsla, the Strong-Willed Ruler. Everyone's dream catch when they open boosters right now. 8-cost Vigilance, Villainy 6/6. Kind of stats for that amount of cost, I would say. But the when played ability is the most important part here. So defeat any number of non-leader units with a total of 6 or less remaining HP and create a Mandalorian token for each unit defeated this way. I can understand why you play such a cheap unit out of Aspect. Why do you play such an expensive unit out of Aspect?
This is another card on Friday because I wanted to have more, even more cards in the late game. You want to play removal, of course, as we said already. You can easily destroy 2 units of your opponent, and even if it only destroys 1, it's still a very good trade. It costs 10 in this deck, but you want to go until 10 resources and even more. And it enables Anakin, of course. If I would play the deck right now, I would probably put him to the sideboard back again and play another Nebula Ignition in the main deck, which only costs 9 and was very strong in the tournament. Or maybe add the second Ray back in the main deck again, which I played before.
Yeah, only a third of all Mando players play pre-Whistler. But Ray, another off-aspect card. Ray Skywalker, 8-cost, command, heroism, 9/9. Better stats for 8, and opponents can't take control of this unit, and this unit can't be defeated by enemy card abilities. Why would you choose Ray over Pre-Whistler?
Because of the text that's on her. Not a removal card, but there are many decks a very hard time dealing with Ray, like most control decks, 9 damage. Maybe you can with Mando Colossus, with a card we will see later. And even for Cat Bane, it's very hard with Ray. And your games go very long. You have 10 resources then. And if your opponent can't deal with her, she just wins you the game.
Yeah, because no glory, only results can't be played. Kill her, which is probably one of the favorite removal.
Yeah, most people came unprepared for Ray. I played against Java's Rancor, which is able to beat Ray. The same opponent also beat my second Ray from the sideboard members, and then after that he played No Glory, which is of course very expensive, 2 cards and 9 resources, and Ray is not the only I play in the late game. He dealt with both Rays, but I still managed to deal enough damage to his base before he get to destroy mine.
Yeah, the Tree Remembers just removes her abilities here, so they can be taken control of.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we talked about Bo-Katan. So let's move over to my favorite arena, the Space Arena. Another 2-cost, Green Leader, Credit Sacrifice. I think I've never read the subtitle until 2-cost aggression, heroism, 3/1. When defeated, you may deal 2 damage to a unit. Is that an ability that you want to use on your charismatic?
You might, if you want to get a ready spy. But usually you want to deal the damage to your opponent's unit. Green Leader is another very strong addition from Ashes of the Empire for the Mandalorian deck. As you said, it's an early drop. You might play it on turn 2. You might even play it on turn 1, but you don't really want to. It's very strong against space decks because it can deal with 2 units at once, or it can even deal with spaceships that have 5 HP because it can attack and afterwards deal the 2 damage when it is defeated. You have to be a little cautious when you play it if your opponent plays no glory only results, but if he plays it on your green leader, still okay. And it's another cheap unit that you can also discard for reckless sacrifice. Against Cat Bane, it's not so good. I mean, he can't use his leader ability to deal with, but he has several other ping abilities on his card, and it also dies to Pre-Whistler pretty easily. So against Cat Bane, I usually took them out. But as I said, against space decks, it's very, very strong.
Yeah, Cat Bane, I think, has IG 2000, for example, which
or
easily pings it
Fire.
away. IG has a harder time against the droid laser turret, which is shielded, so can't just take him out.
Yeah.
But yeah, that makes sense. The Rebellious Hammerhead. It felt like this was a very, very important card in your games that I saw.
Yeah,
did it feel for you the same?
Yes, 100%. Yeah, with the Mandalorian, you always draw lots of cards, obviously, which is very strong with the Rebellious Hammerhead. You have hard times deal with big leaders in many decks. With Rebellious Hammerhead, you can very often or defeat a leader time your opponent deploys, because you have 6 or 7 cards in your hand, which defeats most of the leaders.
It's not a unique, which makes it even more. What's your opponent of worthless? That you can have. I think there were games where you had like 2 of them out. They can't even be removed by Pre-Whistler because they have 7 health. Or it needs to be just knocked down just a tiny bit with an IG or any other ability, which
like Cat Bane, actually. That's the unfair thing about Cat Bane, right? He can even ping your Hammerhead or your Anakin, which have both 7 HP. Then he can just play the Pre-Whistler. Yeah. So we all know Cat Bane does evil things.
Yes, we will see what will happen in 5 days or in 4 days. This video get released. How well this aged, what we just said. Another card everyone is talking about, right, is not the artwork of this card, but everyone should talk about this amazing artwork of this card, is the Chimera, the Frightening Reality. Way too cheap, 7 cost, Vigilance, Villainy, 6/6 units, which, funny enough, got nerfed in development, and they thought it's still a good card. When played, you may choose a friendly unit and enemy non-leader unit. If you do, defeat those units. And when an enemy unit is defeated, heal 2 damage from your base. Another off aspect, it's probably the heal why you choose it.
Yes, that's the first thing why I choose to play the Chimera. As I said, great artwork, great card, and it's worth 9 resources as well. Sometimes it only serves as the Lost and Forgotten number 4 and 5 from the side. Because, as I said, you have those long games, take lots of damage before you stabilize. Still in danger of getting blown out by direct damage, like Devastator, for example, or collateral damage, which deals direct damage to your base. And so you want to have more ways to heal or restore the damage from your base. And that's the third card I choose to put into the deck on Friday. The great abilities, yeah. Heal and defeat. Perfect for a control deck.
Yeah, and always forces your opponent to deal with this card. Because the damage is constant, the heal is constant. Exactly. Which makes this card extremely annoying to play against. I even thought about playing this card in my Piat deck just because the heal is very, very good, and the when played is equally as good if you can sacrifice a small unit for a big one. of your opponent.
Exactly, yeah. Also, we have a control deck. We don't play too many units, but even if you have to sacrifice the camera itself, you're still able to play the removal and the heal, which is pretty good.
And that's it with space units. Let's go to the events. We already talked about the regular sacrifice, so I think we can skip it over, or do we have anything to add?
I could add, it's a very important card against Cat Bane. It beats the Octobocto. It also is able to defeat the turn 1 play if you want it, and draw a card on this second turn.
This next card, Aggressive Negotiations, is probably one of the most important cards you have in your hand, because you only need to hit like twice with your hand size and bring your opponent close to a loss.
Yes, it's the most important card in the deck. It combos nice with Hera Syndulla, as we said before, and it gives you the possibility to game with 1 or 2 attacks, because you draw so many cards. You just have to be patient and draw enough cards and win the game with an aggressive negotiation.
Wild card. Okay, and now the removal events start to roll in. One card is a common card, which is something we don't see as often. So most of the very good performing decks are at least uncommons and aboves. But the 3-cost Vigilance Crushing Blow is probably the card you like to play as your first card as well.
Yes, that's one of the cards I play as the first card very often, because, as we said before, on the first turn, you always want to take the initiative to draw your 4th card, and you want to deal with your opponent's turn 1 play immediately if possible, and Crushing Blow does exactly this. So it's a very good card in this deck.
And also a way to kill the Namek at Ready Spy and surprising damage.
Of course, yeah.
I think your team colleague had a stream match where he played the was it the Onyx Brute, which heals 2 damage when it's defeated. So he killed that unit. It's always something you need to think about. It's not always about killing your opponent's units. Killing your own helps you advance your game plan and to win. Let's call it war. 3-cost aggression, deal 3 damage to a unit, and when you have the initiative, which you probably have, you may deal 2 damage to another unit in the same arena.
Yes, also a very strong card that you play on the second turn to deal with a unit your opponent played. I mean, there are lots of units by now that have 4 HP that you can play on the first turn. Obviously, it's not that strong against these units, but if your opponent plays a go wide strategy with 2 units on the first turn, for example, like the Ahsoka Yellow deck did, this card is even stronger, and you can deal damage to 2 units and trade 2 for 1 with just 3 resources.
Vader probably hates this card as well, because
Exactly.
you destroy his game plan.
Yes, it's one more deck. The Let's Call It War is very, very strong, and why this card is in the deck.
Another one which recently got a resurgence is a Piercing Shot. Defeat all shield tokens on a unit and deal 3 damage to that unit.
Yes, we've said it before.
Shielded Sentinels, that's the problem for I think that's trying to get solved by this card.
It's not only the Sentinels, because we are playing a control deck. If your opponent has Sentinels, okay. There are even shielded units that can be pretty aggressive. For example, the Han Solo Hibernation Sick, which is played in Ahsoka for some other decks, which is shielded and grows, or Vader has the 2/2 shielded unit, which is also important as fast as possible to deny him making more TIE Fighter tokens on the second turn. Yeah, and of course there's the Mandalorian tokens and the Armored Commando that we've talked about before. And even if your opponent's unit does not have a shield, you can still deal with it on the second turn.
That's a good thing. This is not an end. Or if you do, then do that. You can deal 3 damage even if the unit is not shielded. A smaller open fire, I would say.
Yeah.
Charged with Treason is a 4-cost aggression. You may disclose 2 aggression to deal 5 damage. Is this with a 2 aggression is probably easy to reach the longer the game goes because your hand always gets bigger. How about in other situations of the game? Is this a card that's easy to trigger?
You have to take care, of course. As I said, I tended to sideboard out several red cards, especially against the Catbane. And you have to take care to take out too many red cards, reliably be able to deal 5 damage on the 4 resource turn. As you said, you draw lots of cards, and I don't remember any situation where I was unable to disclose double aggression.
Okay, we talked about the tree remembers when we talked about Ray. Enemy unit loses all abilities for this phase if it costs 3 or less defeated. Do you always want to defeat a unit, or is it lose abilities is worth the 4 cost?
No, of course you want to defeat a unit. In corner cases, it might be helpful. Opponent's unit loses, for example, Sentinel, or like my opponent did to my own Ray. But it's mostly there to deal with upgraded units. Pilot Chewbacca, of course, as we said before, or the Armorer deck, for example, became more popular, which upgrades its units, its cheap units, to become pretty big and hard to deal with. For example, the Darksaber makes it a leader unit, which the tree remember about. Your opponent has a large leader unit, costs 3 or less, and defeated with the tree remembers, which is very strong.
Yes. One of the probably most played Vigilance cards is Lost and Forgotten. Here's a defeat a non-leader unit. So remembers Lost and Forgotten can't do that. If you do, will heal 3 damage from your base.
Yeah,
you probably want to hit expensive units with.
In the best case, yeah. If your opponent offers you a big unit, of course you take the one that would deal the most damage to your base. But even if you choose a smaller one, this card is super strong in control decks because it does exactly what you want. Removes one of your opponent's units and makes the game longer by healing your base for 3. So perfect card for a control deck.
Another great card for a control deck is the Hyperspace Devastator. Beat all space units. Quite expensive for 7 because Vader can be done with your base at 7. Or do you heal so much that it's probably not a problem?
Vader is a hard matchup for Mandalorian Colossus. I didn't play against Vader on the weekend, but it managed to deal with his first threat, as I said before, with the Crushing Blow, or if he has the 2/2 shielded, or anything but the Shitty Feet, you can also deal 3 damage and defeat shield, deal 3 damage with, let's call it War. And if you do this every single turn, build his his army of TIE Fighter tokens and go super wide, and you can make it to 7 resources and hope he doesn't have the Grindan to discard your hyperspace disasters. That's a lot of ifs. That's what makes Vader such a hard matchup. But there are other decks that go heavily into space. The hyperspace disaster is very strong. It's the cheapest board wipe we play in the deck, although it's only in space. But as I said, there are decks that focus on space, so it can be a complete board wipe. Even sometimes a one-sided go to the ground, and your opponent plays several space units. It's even stronger, of course. And it's one of the few ways here with Luke Pilot, which gets deployed on a spaceship, because you cannot defeat the upgrade, and you have no Rivals Fall anymore. So Hyperspace Disaster can deal with a piloted Luke leader.
Yes. And every one of my big spaceships impaired. I hate that card. Single reactor ignition, your last villainy card in the deck.
Yes, as a control deck, of course, you want to keep the board clear, to protect your base, and you don't really care if you destroy your own units, if you have some. And it's another way to deal with Lear units if they still are on the board by 10 resources. Hopefully they are not, but you could deal with them by the time of 10 resources. Dealing damage is nice as well. You don't really need it, but you can finish games with the single reactor ignition and dealing 3 to 4 damage to your opponent's base after having attacked with an aggressive negotiations, for example, which brings him close to losing.
Makes sense. And the 61st card is the Nebula Ignition. 9 cost, another board wipe, defeat each unit that...
Yeah, as I mentioned before, I would probably play 2 of them. There are not too many upgrades. Most of them are probably the shields. Cat Bane does not really play lots of upgrades. And yeah, board wipes, as I said, are great. So you want to play as much as you can.
Yes. Okay, when we look at your sideboard, mostly more cards of cards you already have in your main deck. But I see the collateral damage on here. That's deal 2 damage to a unit, then deal 2 damage to a base or another unit in the same arena. In which case did you choose to include this one in your main deck for the second and third game?
I think I might only have used it in one matchup. Was the Ahsoka Yellow, because as I said, it's a deck that goes wide and plays 2 units on the first turn, for example, which might be A-Wing, which is only 1/2. So you can trade 2 for 1 again. It's mostly in the sideboard for the Vader matchup, which is similar, of course, going to space and going wide. And of course, you can also close out games by dealing 2 damage to your opponent's base.
Yeah, which is a very, very good ability to just deal the direct base damage, like we could do with Daring Raid before rotation.
Yeah, although it's not that important in a control deck, right? I mean, dealing direct damage, if you are an aggro deck and your opponent stops you from attacking, it's obviously very strong to deal the final damage with a card directly. But in a control deck like this, you probably won't need it that much. But it's still good to have it.
Yes. And the last card is a direct hit tactic, defeat a non-leader vehicle unit. Probably also for Vader.
Yeah, it's good against Vader. It's good against anything that plays big ships. Beard, for example, as well. It's a cheap removal for 4, and if you know your opponent plays space, you just take it in.
Okay, that makes absolute sense. That's every card. This is the complete deck. When we watched your final against Tim, we were surprised that you started to sideboard after game one. The other people who sat around me, we expected that you main decked for Cat Bane. What did you sideboard in that matchup that you had to make this deck even stronger?
Against Cat Bane, as I said, I took out the green leader. Depending on the list I played against, I also took out the Outer Rim Constable. If I saw my opponent had Condense, I kept one or two maybe. I think Tim's list had 2 Condemns, so I kept them in. Yeah, and I also took out the Let's Call It War. The unit Cat Bane plays have 4 HP or more, or they are shielded, so the card does not do too much. Yeah, so I removed them, and I chose to bring in from my sideboard more cards for the end game, like the Ray Chimera, Touchless Treason to deal with Octobocto, and of course the Nebula Ignition. Yeah. Sometimes I think I even brought in the direct hit to deal with the Justifier or Chimera. As I said, the cheap removal, you can play it.
Okay. What's your ideal opening?
Absolutely depends on the matchup, of course. Which matchup do you want to?
I think Cat Bane is the obvious one as first, as he's the elephant that's in everyone's room.
Okay. Against Cat Bane, which has to be aggressive to beat, you're looking for removal on the first turns, like, as I already said, the Crushing Blow, which you can play on the second turn to deal with any turn 1 play that Cat Bane brings out. Maybe the Reckless Sacrifice, although you probably do not want to use it here with the turn 1 play, with the second play, which is very often the Octobocto. You prefer to have it with Imperial Dog Technician, of course, but you cannot always choose what you draw. We've talked about the Droid Laser Turret is very, very strong against Cat Bane because he cannot ping it with the leader ability. If you play it on the second or third turn, it's a hard time to deal with it. You can have the IG-2000, for example, to deal with the shield. And if he does not, it's hard to pass by the laser turret. And you do not defeat one of your opponent's units on the 4 resource turn by playing removal, and instead playing the laser turret, so you do not trigger the Coscar Reefs and give your Cat Bane opponent an Mandalorian shielded token.
Do you expect more people to pick up this deck now that they have seen it can win a big tournament where like 6 of the other decks in the top cut are Cat Bane? Or do you think as how to say that playing this kind of control requires patience, to say?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Do you expect?
Maybe people will. I mean, myself, I am also looking at big tournaments and what decks do good there, and I want to test the decks. So maybe some people will join in and bring Mando to their next tournament. I don't know.
Let's talk about the meta share Mando has. What are the biggest opponents, the biggest problems and such for this deck. Until now, it has a meta share of less than 3%. We see it here in the middle, while Cad Bane has almost 14%. But this is just what people bring to a tournament. People likes to be creative, so we even have, I don't even remember her character name, it's Governor Price down here, which what becomes more relevant is the top 8. The Cad Bane part grows. Mando, what are your biggest problems as a player? Is it a deck of these up here, or do you more like the, or do you hope, for example, dodge Grief Karga because Grief is surprisingly space heavy? Another hard control deck like Dead Ramiro, not wasting time. What do you like to play against, and what do you rather not meet in the matchups?
Absolutely rather avoid decks like Ahsoka Tano Blue, as we've talked about before, and the Darth Vader Pilot. And I was lucky enough to do so on the weekend, except for the one Ahsoka Tano Yellow. So I was very happy to be that lucky. Against all the other decks I like to play, Cad Bane is always a hard match, but I managed to deal with it very good and only lost one match. And that's the reason why I chose to play the Mandalorian Colossus, because I felt like being able to beat Cad Bane with this deck.
There are this is the archetype which collects every deck which is Mando and Colossus or Mando and Vigilance space. So we see what other people put in their sideboard. I see a classic sideboard card, Arvel Skeen, which deals with credits. Did you not expect any lenders or other credit shenanigans at the tournament that doesn't even take him in your sideboard at least?
I did expect Krennic and Lando, of course, but these are not the decks that I have very big problems against. I think I can beat those decks without playing Arveskeen, and I faced, I think, 3 or 4 Krennics. I lost one, as I said before, but managed to maneuver through the other Krennics. Lando is a very good matchup for the Mandalorian Colossus as well. Even if he plays a big unit on his deploy turn, so much removal immediately, so you don't really need to destroy his credits with the deck.
Yeah, there are still other removal cards that could be used, like here, Retaliation, System Shock, whichever here, yeah, by time is not removal. Yeah, any card that moved out of your deck before the tournament, which we see here.
A card that completely got removed from my deck, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Let me have a look, but I don't think so. I just switched some cards from the sideboard. Did I pick out? I don't remember what I took out of the sideboard. Maybe it was some duplicates. Maybe I played 2 direct hits.
Yes. Okay, then we could take a look at Vader. I think you said that Garinden is a problem when Vader flips at 6, looks at your hand, and there is the card you need to play the next turn to deal with Vader. But what is your game plan in general against this deck?
The game plan should be to defeat his turn 1 play so that he cannot make any more TIE fighter tokens or any TIE fighter tokens at all. The most problematic units he can start with are the Shitty Pete, the Emissary's Shitty Pete, and the Black Sun's Patroller, because the Shitty Pete has 4 HP. You cannot deal with your 3 damage removal spells. The other one obviously has a shield, so you need the piercing shot or crushing to deal with it.
Okay, Luke, true remembers for Chewbacca. We heard that.
Absolutely.
And probably the same plan in general as with Vader.
Yes, Luke does not have any discard for your hyperspace disasters, so the card is very, very strong against Luke if you make it to 7 resources, which you usually should do, because Luke plays 1 unit per turn most of the time, which you can deal with 1 by 1, until he plays an Akbar maybe, or Kelleran, which are mostly in the main deck, or if he deploys and puts a Sinta cast into play. In the late game, there are possibilities for Luke to deploy more units than 1 per turn, but if the game goes that long, you start getting into range of your mass removal spells.
Yeah, Boba Fett is still played a lot. At least one PQ this season. Space Deck as well, probably the same game plan.
Yeah, Boba Fett is a hard matchup as well, actually, because of all this indirect damage, and oftentimes we do not have so many units indirect damage on, so we have to take it on our base directly. Boba plays Devastators in the main deck, and it plays the Planetary Bombardments in the sideboard usually, which are very good against control decks. And as I said, all this indirect damage, for example, from the Fire Spray, and always triggering his leader ability, or the TIE Bomber, if you can deal with it. If Boba starts with a TIE Bomber on the first turn, it deals lots of damage combined with the Boba leader ability.
You played against Krennic, a deck which shares quite a lot of cards with yours. You probably want to... I think the problem in this deck is that there is not a unit can kill in the first turn because your opponent killed that unit, which was the android, probably. What do you do then?
I mean, it's fine. It's his own units. Because, as I said, we want to make the game last longer, because I think you're always favored in the long game of all your super strong late game bombs. And especially Rey is very strong here. What can be problematic is the fact Director Krennic is able to ramp with the expendable mercenary and the resupply carrier, so he can deploy early and bring out bigger threats early. It also plays Cosca Reeves, which we've talked about before, which is 2 units for 1 card, which is strong against control. He does not have a go wide strategy like other decks, so you usually should be able to deal with his units 1 by 1, as I said before, for Luke Pilot, and that's why I managed to beat 2 or 3 of the Krennics and only lost to 1, which played very aggressive, and that was success.
Yeah, I think that's let's talk about Ahsoka. I hate this combination of Neil and Han Solo. You probably do too, because that can quickly get out of hand, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Ahsoka is probably the worst matchup that you can face with the Mandalorian. It's the absolute goal strategy. Place 2 units on the first turn, and even attacking with 1 if he has kneel. He has also the Cosca Reefs that we've talked about several times, and the Queen Amidala. And in the deploy turn, Ahsoka usually wants to play Jar Jar Binks and the Royal Starship, which can even kill you in the 6th resource turn, although you have 35 and you can't deal with so many units. But
Yes, that just explodes. Okay, I think we talked about almost everything. You probably will hang around in the comments if viewers have questions.
I tried.
And this weekend, PQ in our local game store, will you play Mandalorian, or will you say, no, I won the big one. Now I will arrive with, let me check what we have here. Shidhati is another PQ winner.
Actually, I'm not sure what I'm going to play, but it might be the Mandalorian.
Thank you, Christian. Good luck on that tournament, because I don't play it. I just stream it. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us, and we see each other when you win the regional.
Okay. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
And it was felt very good to be supported by so many other players and friends. And thank you to everyone. And vote for Niels.
Yes, please. Thank you. Goodbye.